Alrighty, welcome to some Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XI stuff. We talked to Alzal, A-L, X-Ray, A-A-L. I'm pronouncing the X as a Z because sometimes it is, and it's just easier than Alxal. No thank you. We're inside Lower Jeuno, which you get to from Yoctel. And the quest we're doing is that world was called Vana'diel. I believe that's how Vana'diel is pronounced. That's how I have always pronounced it. Victor A Nancy A apostrophe Delta I-E-O. That world was called Vana'diel. Given to us by Alzal. Here we go. Try as I might, I can recall nothing of my past to refute Tuliyoll's claims. Priest, on the other hand, seems to know everything of her past and who she is. Yet to be told the memories of your life are not your own, I can only imagine how she must feel.
Now's not the time to be disheartened. At least not here, anyway. I wouldn't trust anything made by Tuliyollal to be safe for long,
says Bakool the Mighty. I'm just gonna truncate his name.
Or to remain functional,
says the Mystic Head.
Let's return to Mamook while we still can. My mother will want to know of what we've seen here.
Preach finally turns after having her back to everybody, just kind of thinking, you know. We'll just teleport out to Mamook for 3 hundo. I think it would be, yeah, it'd probably be 70 or 100, depending on, yeah, it'd be 100 if I stepped outside, but who gives a shit? 200 gil at this point in the game. And from Mamook, telepoint, which is what they were called in Final Fantasy XI, go south, but mostly west. Find Bakool, Milalja. Milalja is his mom, who we kind of didn't really meet until nearing the end of Dawn Trail stuff. I meant to be back in Black Mage after testing, but whatever, it's fine.
There you are. I thought you should be the one to explain what happened out there in Yoctel.
I give a nod. Cutscene, by the way. And I explain. And the camera pans up as it usually does during a long explanation, goes black, comes back to our scene, and I finish up. She ponders. Not simply from another territory, but another world entirely. That explains much of the initial confusion between us. My apologies for any trouble I may have caused, and thank you for taking me in, says Alzal. She turns to him, smiles. Different worlds, and yet we seem to have so much in common. I cannot help but wonder what it is that links the two together. What indeed? You mistook us for the Mamurja of your Vana'diel when we first met. May I ask what they are like? Nothing at all like you and yours, even if they do bear striking resemblance. I remember them being mostly introduced in the Treasures of Ottergon, and they were like a warfaring people, always at odds with the people of Ottergon. And that was where, I think it was called Besieged, but I'm not sure, was introduced in that expansion. And periodically, the Mamulja or other races would invade Ottergon, and everybody who wanted to and was of the appropriate level and had reached, gone through the quest lines in order to have like a certificate or some kind of key item that registered you automatically as a combatant. Otherwise, you could just run around and just do your merchant thing as usual. Although it was kind of a dynamic area because certain merchants wouldn't be there if the invasion was successful, because they'd be killed, and it would take a while for them to respawn, like a day, like an actual real life day. It was a more fun system than I'm making it sound, and people loved it. I enjoyed it the couple times when I finally got high enough level and good enough geared to not just be freaking annihilated. But yeah, it was fun. There was a time when all the peoples of Vana'diel, the Mulja included, knew peace. But a tyrant possessed of a terrible power claimed rulership over the Mamulja and turned them against us. Before we realized it, we were at war. A tale similar to ours in a way. The rare few of us born with two heads grow to be immensely powerful. That power was used to justify our preeminence over all others. But that is not who we are anymore. We can be better than our forebears. We will be better, says the mystic head. I try to make his a bit more nasally.
All our hard work will be for nothing if Tuliyollal succeeds in seizing the throne.
Well, you'll not want for aid in stopping him, I promise you that.
Oh, keen to lend a hand, are you?
I don't need to know who I am to know the right thing to do. My blade is yours. On my honor as an adventurer of Vana'diel, we will put an end to Tuliyoll's schemes. Preesh has been here listening, and then she kind of hangs her head a little bit, looking down. If she were here, I'm sure she'd have done the same. Probably speaking of Ulmia. Right then. We can worry about whether or not I'm real another day. I'm not going to stand around and let this Tuliyollal piss all over the memories of my home. She did have a foul mouth. I loved it. She was great. So you can count me in too.
Don't think you can forget about us. This all started in Yoktel, and we have a duty to keep our forest safe.
She smiles up at the big galoot. Nods.
Tuliyollal has left us without a trail to follow, but it's only a matter of time before he reveals himself to challenge mercy once more. If you're to be ready, I think it prudent the two of you learn more of our world.
An excellent idea, brother. We should start with Tuliyollal and see to our own preparations while we're there.
If you would meet us at the dirigible landing, we will see Prish and Alzal to Tuliyollal. Okay. That's all the way in the north. Imagine if the game made you actually escort them. The only way to by ground connecting North Yoktel to South is this little guy. And then the dirigible landing is all the way up freaking here. Final Fantasy XI had some escort quests and little missions that yeah. There was one in Dangruf Wadi I think I finally did succeed on after I really understood it and had an appropriate level for it. But you had to escort this boy who was trying to prove himself strong. No, sorry, it was maybe like a late teen, but like a soldier, a late teen soldier, who's trying to prove himself by running to a certain point within Dangruf Wadi. I believe it was one of the geysers. And his sister knew that he couldn't make it on his own, and she was entirely correct. So what you pretty much had to do was be somebody with cure. You could not use cure if he was not distracted in battle. You couldn't let him see you, so you had to hide behind Roxy in there. When he was in battle, and there's a little bit of lag involved, so like he would appear to pop out of battle at a different time than he was actually. Oh, I probably just could have gone to Tuliyollal. Well, whatever. He would appear to pop out of battle like maybe half a second later than he actually did, according to the game. So you had to be careful about. But I did it once. The first time I learned about it, when I was very new to the game, I was on a paladin probably, and I tried it. I tried it several times because you could just restart it from the entrance to the zone. Very unsuccessfully. And then it was like a year or two later that I finally tried it again and succeeded. Oh wait, destination. Let me switch back to Black Mage just for the heck of it. Okay. We have a cutscene after waiting at the destination. Preesh runs up and waves at me. In my face. Those balloon-powered airships are really something. I didn't expect the flight to be so smooth. So this is Tuliyollal. Before I forget, I couldn't help but notice how much you seem to know about me. Is there anything else you remember? She says to Alzal. He thinks with his eyes closed, head bowed a bit. Opens. I'm afraid I don't, and as you don't recognize me either, perhaps we weren't acquaintances after all. What I know of you was likely overheard in a tavern somewhere, patrons sharing stories of your famed exploits. I see. Well, I'll leave it at that then.
Now, where to begin? Brother, would it not be wise to first apprise the Landsguard of what's happened, or would you prefer another stern lecture from the vow of reason?
I'd sooner rip off our tail. Fine. Could you keep them occupied while we see to the Landsguard? Maybe take them to eat or something?
I know. Take them to Aunt Teal's to sample her tacos. Here, for that first meal of yours we spoiled.
I turn to him.
And just so we're clear, we're not expecting to earn your forgiveness. No amount of good deeds will ever undo our past, but there's not always time to build a better future.
I don't know why I'm glaring at him. Wait, is all this Okay, because we buried the hatchet with him a long ass time ago in the actual main storyline, but given that the gear rewards from Jeuno were item level 720, that was maybe a couple patches ago. I swear to God, all the spam calls, it's ridiculous.
When you get there, tell her we sent you. She'll see that she'll see that they are taken care of.
I don't know why that was difficult for me. So dumb, I am so dumb, can't read apparently. Where? Oh, talk to Preach. Aunt T, that's Tom I. Aunt T's tacos, eh? Let me guess, they serve tacos? Oh, I can hardly wait. I eat tacos all the time back home. Though I suppose it wouldn't hurt to take a more scenic route. Maybe something along the way will help jog Alzal's memory. Okay. Let's get our jog on. Head east. Curve a bit to the southeast. We got, I think these guys are optional. Or maybe these are the ones that are, no, they're optional, yeah. And we're curving more south than east, but a little bit east still. A stone pathway. We'll talk to both Preach and Alzal in here. Discuss alpacas. What in Altana's name is that? Do people actually ride those things? Chocobos are the only beasts I've ever seen used for riding in Vana'diel. If they have any, I'd sure like to see them. In a different land. Alpacas again. Those creatures remind me of the Chocobos in Vana'diel. To say we adventurers found them indispensable would be no exaggeration. From shore to shore, they were our faithful companions wheresoever the roads might lead us. Oh my god, 3 in a row? Seriously? My dear lord. And then just the general talk, which will be repeated every time, so I'm only going to do it once. The diversity of the people here is unlike anything I've ever seen in Vana'diel. I can't tell you what a relief it is to know everyone here can get along. And Alzal. Walking the streets of an unfamiliar city, it feels like I'm back on another adventure. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, different races in 11 weren't. They never added another playable race. They added jobs. Like they added Blue Mage, and they added. I think no, Ninja and Sam were also added jobs a little bit later. But like there were some of part of the first added jobs, I think, and then like Summoner was part of that as well, and like Blue Mage and Puppet Master and Geomancer at some point, way late. Okay, this is for discuss the Gornitruk Gleam Sands. Is that the beach? My home is surrounded by ocean too, you know? It has the most beautiful views on a clear day. Not without the occasional monster, though. It's nice being able to walk around like this without your guard up all the time. There are plenty of cities that you didn't have to have your guard up. I'm just gonna hide. I don't think we have to use that chat window. I cannot say why, but I've remembered something looking out at the sand dunes. There was a man out on the docks who claimed he could teach me new battle arts, but he would only agree on the condition that I retrieved for him a damselfly worm, an apron, and a magicked skull. I don't suppose you've met anyone on your travels who's made such queer requests. That was in Selbina. That one was in Selbina, and that was in order to gain access to a sub-job. This game doesn't have those. What's the game I'm thinking of that kind of does? Okay, like Final Fantasy XII kind of did. Although in 11, a sub-job was always rounded down half of your main job's level. So you could be white mage / black mage. You would have access to every black mage spell that was half the level of your white mage. So like if your white mage was 20, your black mage was 10. Your actual black mage you had to level up on its own, obviously, so you'd have that as your main job to level black mage. But once it was under this, it was the sub job for white mage, you would be dropped to half of that. You also gained stats. So like if you were sub job warrior for your monk, you would get more strength, you'd get more hit points than if you were to be sub job black mage on your monk. You'd get a little bit more intelligence, more mana, which a monk doesn't use, but you could have spells from your black mage sub job. There was a time when I wanted to be a warrior / white mage, because I'm like, wait, warrior, awesome, strong, tanky, hit points, good with an axe and a shield. And white mage, I can heal myself, I can heal others, I can cure poison, I can cast a damage over time called Dia, which is in this game, but it's only for white mage. Very later on, your arrow becomes Dia eventually, I think. I know, because I have a white mage 100. But that was one of the only job combinations that had a nickname that I can remember, and they were called a butter sheep. A butterfly paired with a sheep. The butterfly being the white mage part of it, and the sheep being the rampaging warrior part of it. And it was vehemently no, bad, don't do it. Sub-jobs are great. That entire game is great. I've said it numerous times. That's why my videos for these quests are so long, because I reminisce so frickin' much. Several years playing that game. Puppet Master for the win, by the way. I love it so much. Preesh, discuss Bayside Bevy. It's a little market stretch here. So these are the markets of Tuliyollal. There are so many stands, I wouldn't know where to begin. It's enough to make my head spin. And then, some fruit would sure hit the spot right about now. No, Preesh, remember, you're about to eat tacos. I happened to spy a few goblins on the way to the market. I remember them living in the major cities of Vana'diel as well. Of course, there was no shortage of the unscrupulous sort living in the wilds as well. They would gather in droves and give chase to adventurers, forcing anyone and everyone to retreat back to the safety of town. Depending on where you were leveling, Final Fantasy XI for a long time, and kind of all the way up to the end even, leveling was done in parties of up to 6 players, and you would usually have, you would want to have a tank, which was Paladin, I'm not going to go into it, there's a bunch of combinations, but Paladin, Warrior, Ninja, actually, with their shadows, their Utsusemi. You'd have a healer, a debuffer, or a buffer-debuffer kind of combo, so a red mage could not only cast Dia, Poison, Blind, Slow, Gravity on a monster that you were fighting, but they could also cast Haste, which is obvious, Refresh, which would gradually refresh somebody's magic points. So you cast that on yourself as a red mage and on the healer, so that you don't run out of mana healing or doing damage as fast for the black mage for same reason. And then 3 damage dealers. It was usually kind of standard. Usually the puller would be the buffer debuffer so that everybody else could be damaging things down. And you would set up camp. You would choose a spot that you knew was the least likely for a monster to just randomly wander into what you were setting up as your camp. And a camp just meant standing there. You didn't actually like set down a campfire or put up tent. Like a camp was just standing, like you're claiming this spot. And the puller would go out a certain distance. Back in the beginning stages of the game, you could pull a monster from the other side of the map. But you didn't want to, obviously, because that was very inefficient for gaining experience points. And you would fight monsters that were extremely... I want to say extremely difficult. No, extremely tough. So, very tough would give... So, even match means it is an equal... It gives a baseline of like 100 experience points. Very tough, I think, would give a baseline of 120 or 140. There were like, I think there's only one level of very tough, so very tough was always one level above you, maybe two. I don't remember what the system was right now. And extremely tough was anything 3 or more levels above you, and they were harder to hit. They would have more hit points. Like as their levels go up, obviously they would do more damage, be harder to hit, etc. But they would give the most experience points per kill, taking longer to kill depending on your party setup. Like if everybody's geared appropriately and everybody's the same level and you have a good setup, like you have the healer, the buffer, the debuffer, tank, and 3 damage dealers, then you're usually pretty good to go. Did I miss? Yeah. No, I said it right. Healer, tank, buffer to buffer, just to say it quicker, and then 3 damage dealers. You could take down but like extremely difficult or extremely tough is all the way up. It's from like if you're level 12, then extremely tough is level 15 up to level 100. There's no distinction beyond that level 15. Aside from, there was also a message underneath that said it appears to have very high defense and evasion, or you could, depending on who your puller was, the game was gauging the monster's defense and evasion based on that puller's stats. So if the puller had pretty good accuracy compared to the damage dealers, then the damage dealers might not be able to hit it as well as the puller could, but it was still usually a pretty good gauge of, okay, extremely tough, but it has average evasion and defense. You could probably take it down. It's probably only like 3 levels above you or whatever. And you would chain them like you can in this game, but the chains didn't, like the time length of the chain didn't diminish. It was always like, I don't know, a minute or 30 seconds after the last kill. So, and the puller couldn't go too far from the camp when the kill was happening, or the puller wouldn't get the experience points. So that's another reason why you want the puller to not have to stray too far from the camp to bring in the next monster to kill. That was good stuff. And then eventually, like, a puller became a bard / ninja, so they could put up shadows to not take hits from the monster they were pulling back to camp, so the shadows would absorb the hits. They would get to camp, sleep the monster, and then the way the attacking worked in that game, when you click to attack something, you are drawing out your weapon and it takes time. Whereas if you kill something and the next thing that has aggro on you or your group, because it has aggro on your puller, is in your line of sight, you don't put away your weapon. That game also stupidly had a delay where you put your weapon away and you have to wait a couple seconds to once again click attack to then draw your weapon. So like a huge delay unless you were facing something that you had some threat on because your puller put it in front of you and slept it there. So like a bard would pull a monster, sleep it at your camp as you're killing the previous monster, and then you run out and do the same thing. Obviously not overwhelming your group, but... And then the bard would have to have appropriate stats to actually successfully sleep things every time, or else you'd have 2 monsters in camp doing damage, and your healer and stuff probably couldn't keep up with it. But anyway, sorry. Here's Preach to continue. This is the place, right? I can smell the savory meats. Okay, savory meats already. The reason I got into that is because Alzal talked about goblins like chasing people through the zone. Because monsters could chase you all the way across the zone without disappearing when that game was like super popular, they could chase somebody who maybe they pulled too many goblins, or they accidentally pulled a goblin as they were trying to pull a lizard. Happened a lot in the jungles. I can't remember, like Utunga jungle and Waihatar, I believe. Yahatar, whatever. And they would be, I think those were called trains, because you could pick up more monsters you didn't want to fight on the way to running out of the zone to drop aggro. But what would happen is those monsters would reach the zone line, they would kind of stand there for a few seconds, maybe longer. Anybody who enters the zone is in those monsters' aggro site or sound aggro radius, gets attacked and probably killed, leaving this pile of corpses at the zone entrance until nobody goes in, and then the monsters would slowly walk back to their spawn points, attacking anything along the way that happened to like not know they were there and just get unlucky. So that game was wild at times. Eventually they programmed it so those monsters just disappeared after they either stopped chasing after a much shorter period of time, as long as the person got far enough away to kind of lose aggro like you can in this game. Although in this game every monster only has a certain radius they can go, except for maybe like world monsters. I don't know about those very much, but yeah, anyway, sorry. And you must be Aunt T. Bakool Jajar recommended we sample your tacos, so we'll have 3 of your finest, please. Her name is T Soul Ja, and it's a tent set up. Bakool Jajar sent you, did he? Take a seat and I'll be right over with a tray of our world-famous fare. Cutscene. We have the beautiful night sky with some clouds, but still very beautiful. Sitting at a table next to the ropes, Preach is extremely enamored with her taco soft shell. Tacos at long last! Oh, how I've waited for this moment! And chomps into it. Eyes go wide open. Shakes with joy. Sparkles around her face. I thought nothing could match the rich flavor of our tacos back home, but the spicy seasoning of this meat is something else. We see a close-up of the taco. She keeps chomping into it. I have a little bit of a smile. My options are eat as many as you'd like, or this meal's on Bakool Jaja, so don't hold back. This meal's on Bakool Jaja, so don't hold back. She has a burrito. Oh, that's another taco, never mind. After finishing her first, she just kind of turns her head and smiles at me. Alzal smiles with all of us as outdone, surely. In taco munching? Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Why not, Riley? We see a clean plate. Phew, I couldn't eat another bite. Thanks for treating us. It was almost like a taste of home. Tavnasia. Tavnasian tacos were a pretty popular defense food for tanks at some point in the game. I think. Yeah, I think so. Seeing as we still have a little extra time to ourselves, care to hear more about Vana'diel? Always, baby, always. I nod my head, or nod and blink. She closes her eyes. We get a black screen. We see some waterfalls, some forested land, This one is the entrance to Tavnasia. 20 years ago, the land was gripped by a terrible conflict. The Crystal War, they called it. Sorry, my voice is weirdly already gone today. I did yell very loudly when my GPS took me in an extremely wrong direction and cost me like 9 minutes, and which is money when you're a delivery driver. And, obviously the mileage gone with that. And it wasn't long before my home, Tavnasia, was drawn into the struggle. During their assault on the peninsula, the beastmen launched a weapon so powerful it sundered the land connecting us to the mainland. Those who survived fled to the Tavnasian safehold. It wasn't much, but we were able to piece together a modest living down in those caves. Alzal is just kind of watching her reminisce. Sorry, I'm spoiling the mood, aren't I? No. You're an adventurer too, aren't you? Have any tales of daring you can share with us? I give her a nod, and I go into it. She's talking as well. Alzal a little bit shocked, but he talks as well. As well? Why did I do that? I don't know. And it fades to black. Traveling to other worlds and saving this one from the very embodiment of despair. She slams her hands on the table. Wait, really? You're not just an adventurer? You're a goddamn living legend? Potty mouth. A hero. A living legend. He's kind of talking to himself a bit, but I notice and cock my head at him. And then I notice Bakool Jaja.
Sorry for the wait.
There was much to apprise the Landsguard of, as you well know. That Tuliyollal was behind the stolen relics, and the sightings of Bakool Jaja was understandably difficult for them to hear.
And yet there are others enticed by the rumors of a strange portal in the woods. I've heard some foolhardy treasure seekers have even gone off looking for it.
No, shock.
A dangerous thought, knowing Tuliyollal could show up at any time with more of those echoes. Which is why I'm going back to Jeuno to make sure our people stay out of there.
If you're going, then so are we. It beats sitting around and waiting. Alzal nods. I nod as well. Alzal stands. Preesh gives the fist and palm. Camera pans up to a no longer night sky. Were we eating at like 4 a.m. and it became daytime? The hell? Weird. Anyway, we talked to Preesh to finish the quest. Gods, those tacos were bloody brilliant. There's nothing better than good food and good company to pass the time. 3,000 gil. That world was called Vana'diel is complete. That'll be the end of it for me today. I can't talk too much, apparently, so we'll continue tomorrow. I will note that this is in Tuliyollal. Tuliyollal. I haven't done my dailies yet. Alright, so dang it, get out of the way, butt. Preesh, myself, Alzal, and Bakool Jaja, thank you for watching. We do hope you've enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.